I'm not going to lie. Team USA might not win the Olympics. Like, they might not even be able to field a team for the All-Star game. I'm not joking. They might not be able to field a team. Because half their team's hurt. But before we get on to, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. We are currently at 21.2k. If we could hit 21.3k, which is 22 more subscribers by the end of the day, that would be incredible. We are going to be live as well for the Fever and Lynx game. But if you guys look at this team right here, you guys can see injured, great, absolutely elite player, injured, shot chucker, future GOAT, fine. One of the future GOATs, one of the future GOAT guards. Healthy, but also can barely lift her shoulders above her head. Injured. And 42. This team has, like, I know Alyssa Thomas is going to play, but, like, she has 2 torn labrums. Like, you have 8 healthy players, and one of them has 2 torn labrums. Like, what is going on? Like, this is like the all sentiment team. You don't call, this is not the US women's national team. This is this is Sentiment BC, Sentiment Basketball Club. That's literally what it is. You picked a team on sentiment, and it's biting you in the ass. Like, you just don't, it's such a bad decision. And also, they're there like, okay, we have our reserves. No, like, what they should have done was, they should have done what every other country did and announced a panel of like 18 players. Announce a panel of 18 players and then say, we'll pick our final 12 closer to the Olympics. Or we're going to pick our final 12 for our Olympic practice games. And then you have this 12 right here, and you add in Ariel Atkins, you add in Ariel Atkins, you add in Angel Reese, you add in Caitlin Clark, you add in, what's her name? Bree Jones, and Aaliyah Boston. Trying to think who else is there that isn't on 3v3. Like, Ryan Howard's obviously 3v3, so you can't play both. And I'm just trying to think what other player you can just add in there. Who else has been hooping this season? Is Kayla McBride could be naturalized from their country for all I know. Like, there's a lot of players that are like, you never know what way they're naturalized. But Kayla McBride, nope, I think she is. I'm pretty sure she's a American. Maybe Kayla McBride. Unless she is naturalized, which I don't think she is. So, that's what your team should be. That is what your team should... It should have been 18 players. And then, because the reason why they picked it so early is because of All-Star voting. That was simply put what it was. It was because of the WNBA All-Star voting, and they did the Team USA versus the WNBA All-Stars. Team USA are only going to have 8 players. They're only going to have 8 players for this game. Is Hailey Van Lith going to have to play in the Olympics for this team because she's in Paris? Is they should have just called up Hamby for this team at this stage? Like, Derek Hamby playing 3-on-3. Like, what are they going to do? Are they going to go and say, you know what? Like, they could actually be screwed. Like, if they're screwed enough that, like, right before the Olympics, they're in Paris, they play their game I think they play a game in London, and they don't really have the ability to bring someone over. It has to be someone that's already there. And they're just like, oh, okay, Derek Hamby, you're going to be in the Olympics now. Oh, crap, who are we going to find for the 3-on-3? I'm pretty sure the only 2 players that are eligible for the 3-on-3 are Lexi Hull and Katie Lou Samuelson. So, yeah, that could happen. But it's an injury nightmare. They're having an injury crisis because Team USA are arrogant enough to only name 12 players and refuse to replace them. Look, again, any team worth a damn would not be bringing Chelsea Gray. Any serious basketball team would not be bringing Chelsea Gray here. They would not be bringing Chelsea Gray. If you are a serious basketball team with the talent that you have, you would not be bringing an injured point guard. Whatever about Brittany Griner, the only center. There is absolutely no reason for Jewel Lloyd to be on this team. Like, none whatsoever. She is pointless. What is a shot chucker going to do on this team? She is pointless. Like, what is a shot chucker going to do when she is the she's going to be the 5th option on the floor at all times? Like, Fee Collier is probably going to play. I think she's probably just resting right now. But she's not going to play in the All-Star game. She's not going to play in the All-Star game. Brittany Griner's not going to play in the All-Star game. Taurasi's not going to play in the All-Star game. And Chelsea Gray's probably going to continue to play badly. Like, she's hurt. Like, she's very clearly hurt. If you know what Chelsea Gray has done, like, in her career, what you're watching from Chelsea Gray this year is not Chelsea Gray. And people are like, oh, the Aces are like 9-1 since she's played. Yeah, just because they literally did not have a point guard in their roster. They were playing Kate Martin a point guard at one stage. They didn't have a point guard in their roster. Like, you could have replaced literally any starting point guard. Heck, I'm trying to think who the worst. Lindsay Allen is the worst starting point guard in the WNBA. If you put Lindsay Allen, who's barely a point guard, in that Aces team, they probably start winning games. Like, the level Chelsea Gray's playing at, she is not as good as... I'm trying to think of, like, again, starting point guard. She hasn't been as good this year, obviously, as Kane Clark. She hasn't been as good as Skylar Diggins-Smith. She hasn't been as good as Jordan Canada when she played. She hasn't been as good as Natasha Cloud, and she hasn't been as good as Julie Van Loo. She's been the 6th best point guard in the WNBA this year. The 6th best point guard player at her position. And they didn't bring four of the top 5 who are American. So you're looking at a team that's in a absolute... Like, they might not come out with the gold. If they are dead set on not hurting people's feelings, and that's the problem with it, is like, it is like what Enrique said, it's politics. Like, they're more worried about not hurting people's feelings than anything else. They're more worried about that than anything because of the way they picked this team. Like, they picked the team based on what would keep the WNBA hierarchy happy, and it just was not smart. It was not smart. And they should have, and I'm not even saying like, oh, if they brought Caitlin Clark instead of Taurasi, that changed anything. It doesn't really change anything. What they should have done was what every other team does, and before any sort of like, and you might be like, oh yeah, they had a camp. Yeah, they organized it like during the Final Fours. And again, it doesn't even matter about picking a team from camp. They just picked the team too early. You can't pick the team this early. You genuinely can't pick a team this early, especially if you're going to be stubborn and not replace people when they get hurt. So you've now got a situation where they're screwed. If they'd done what every other country did and brought a panel of 18 players, and then you bring 18 to your pre-game, like, it's a very last minute thing, but you bring 18, you play 18 in your like pre-Olympic game against, I think they're playing, I don't know who they're playing, I think it's in England. They're playing somebody else in America. So they've got 2 pre-Olympic games. You play 18 players in that. And if this is the 12 you come up with, then fair enough. But like, with the way this WNBA season is, you probably do have to announce the team very last minute. But instead, they announced the team earlier than anyone should have, earlier than any other team. And now they could be left with a stage where they have 8 fully healthy players going. And Alyssa Thomas, again, as great as she is, her legs work, her arms don't. And the fact that even with 2 torn labrum, she's still a borderline MVP candidate, that is incredible. But you've got 7 players. You are showing up with 7 players without that are not carrying something. And of those 7 players, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them play the same position. You are showing up with 7 100% healthy players, and 5 of them play the same position. I would not be that surprised to see the US team actually somehow lose in the Olympics. That is how badly constructed this roster is. And just imagine, if you just brought 18, you played them in their games, and even if this is the final 12 you come up with, then it means that if players are getting injured, you're like, oh, well, we just have someone from the panel. And not this situation we're in right now where it was all because of the All-Star game. It was because they needed 12 for the All-Star game. They needed the 2 teams. They needed to make sure who they knew was on the All-Star team. Screw the All-Star. Like, that is the reason. The All-Star game, trying to make it something that it wasn't, might genuinely, like, if the USA are ever going to lose in the Women's Olympics, it's going to be this team. As great as this team is, unless Aja Wilson and Breanna Stewart just have absolute masterclasses every single game. And again, I think the only reason that they could lose with them is if, let's just say, they play too many games, too many days, and like Messiman goes for 40 for Belgium, or Magbagor shuts down Aja Wilson, which could happen. She's the best defender in the league for bigs. And Breanna Stewart's just having one of her off shooting days, and same with Sabrina. But it's very unlikely they lose. But if they were ever going to lose, it'll be a team that, again, has 7 fully healthy players with 5 of them playing the same position.